And guys, we just want to welcome you back on episode 2 as we talk to our CEO. I'm Mac, a co-founder and instructor. We're going to talk to Chad, our CEO of Beyond the Trek. And listeners, please tune into this conversation as we start this podcast journey. Talk about unique journeys, the unique stories of each guy that's a part of the team. You'll be able to resonate with what they have gone through with their life and to see how some of those unique challenges and how they overcome those challenges as they moved on and progress in their journey. And so, without further ado, Chad, welcome back to episode 2, and we want you to really share with us your story, your hero's journey, if you will. Who is Chad Ballestrazze?
Well, happy to be back. This is an awesome opportunity to say hi to everybody and thank you. So I've been married to my wonderful wife for almost 16 years. We got 2 wonderful children, and I'm getting ready to close out my chapter in the military here in the next few years, and really wanted to dive off and try something completely new that I never thought I would ever do. I always thought it was something that was out of reach, something just what certain people, because they were gifted to be able to do, just to start a business and figure it out. Because what you see online is people that are just successful. You don't see a lot of the failures. You don't see a lot of different things that happen, and I just really wanted to find something that was going to give me purpose post-service and do it with guys that I had served with. And after being, on a team for so long and around like-minded individuals, I didn't want to just step out of the military and have that all gone. Because when you're not in the text chain anymore, right? When you're not in the emails, when you're not putting your kid on to go do certain things, like that sense of purpose could be gone. So what better time than trying to figure it out now with guys that you've done all those things with? So when you step out of this, there's still a team, there's still a sense of purpose. It's just you trade in your kit for your mind and your experiences that you've been able to have. So, yeah.
Okay. So you talked to us about, how long you've been married, your 2 wonderful kids, but what is your beginning story? Where do you come from in the country?
So I was born and raised in Sonoma County, California. Lived in Northern California until I was age 17. Joined the Army right out of high school. I think it was 9 days right after.
That's it, baby.
I was on the bus and ready to go, baby. So I entered the service then. Had a wonderful career. Served in the conventional Army with some phenomenal people that have taught me a lot. I've been blessed with the opportunity to be able to serve in special operations capacity for years of my career. With some of the most, amazing people that America has to offer. But through that time, I have faced more failures than successes. And when your success is built on talent, right, it builds arrogance. And when you get punched in the mouth, like I have many of times, and you realize that you've rode that wave and you stay away from things that you're bad at and just show people what you're good at, you start to get exposed. And you start to learn that your talent should be built off discipline, right? And not arrogance. And that's what it turns into. So that's kind of where this organization was founded, was teaching people those lessons learned, and something that became so became natural to us, right? It was just very physically based type events, because that's just what we've done for years and years and years. And anything you do, right? Anything we've done in the military, anything that's entering an assessment and selection program, it is physically based. It is mentally based. That's all we've done, all right? And when you serve in any kind of capacity, right, on a wrestling team, like you're constantly around like-minded individuals that are willing to push the envelope. So it seemed like a good fit. And what we've learned over the last 8 months, right? It's 6 months, I'd say, really. 6 months. Shout out to John Troxel, who's the third SEAC of the United States Army, who took a random Facebook message from me for, God knows why, and was able to, offered up time to sit down and provide his mentorship and his leadership and said, hey, you guys really have something you need to use.
Phenomenal human being.
Changed our thought process on, maybe we should talk about our experiences. Maybe we should take people through workshops and show them where we failed in life and where they may be failing in life and how they can bounce back from that. But still also, as an additional service, offer something that dives deep right into yourself and get after that physical aspect. Because I think all of us here, and probably some people watching, like, you can't deny that doing something hard with people or going through something hard with people doesn't form a bond, doesn't make you stronger.
I think, that was some really good points. But I think I've known you for roughly over 10 years. We met definitely us three, and then Gavin, I met recently in the last almost a year now, which is really great. You're like a machine that goes, and that doesn't shut off for some evil reason. He's like the mad scientist in the basement. But tell us about your childhood, because that speaks to some of who you are today.
It's a shaping operation, Chad.
Yes.
Matt goes deep.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Why is Chad the way he is?
What was the decisive operation?
That's it.
What was the decisive?
So, I was both my parents were hearing impaired. So I grew up in what is known as the deaf community, right? And grew up around kids that were just like me. Their parents were hearing impaired and or deaf. So what you learn to pick up on is that when you lose one of your senses, the other ones get heightened, but especially your hearing. What I tell people is, imagine people when you can't hear, or people that are blind, and just close your eyes and imagine trying to move around, right? Or especially when you're deaf, picking up on people's tone, picking up on their body language, and that's something I learned, was body language and just what do people like, what do they don't like. Unfortunately, my father had an addiction problem, and mainly big time with alcohol. And I think a lot of that was just, in my own personal opinion, was due to what he expressed was he thought he didn't have the gifts that other people had to be able to go out and do certain things. I can't learn another language. I can't do this. Things came harder to him, right? For a long time, he was trying to get he had some difficulties at work, so he switched occupations and needed a Class A license and studied completely until he was able to get it, right? But he always told himself that things come harder to me, And I think I just always picked up on that. That's part of where riding your successes on talent, because when he would drink, he would either be the nicest guy in the world or he would be a violent guy. So you learn to figure out what made the ticker go tick, and you didn't do that. So that started shaping me when I came in the Army of, what do you like? I'm just going to do what you like and you tell me to do, and I'm going to get really good at that. So everybody thinks, you're high speed, man. You're squared away. And in the back of my mind, right, I had no confidence in myself. Because I was like, I'm just doing what this guy wants me to do. Because then I stay away. I stay off his back, and I shine in front of everybody. I'm seeking that feeling of somebody's not disappointed, right?
Yeah.
And I say all that to say, because I talk about a feeling. You don't always remember the time that your parents are there, but you remember the times that they aren't there. And I can vividly remember the times. My dad was always filming things. Like when he would go to games and stuff, he'd film them. Right? And I remember that, always being the kid that scored a touchdown, scored a basket. And you're looking for your parents and they're not there. You're like, where are they? Yeah, I got off track there. What was
No, I mean, you talking about your childhood.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, so my parents got divorced when I was 8. They went through a nasty divorce. So I lived with my mom's side of the family for a little bit. Very educated people. All went to college, right? I mean, great family. So I had that, right? Hey, you need to get an education. You need to do certain things. And then I had my dad's side of the family, which was, I mean, not that my mom's side of the family wasn't, but I would call them a true blue collar worker. My grandparents there, they had their first kid when they were 15. They had kids after that, right? So it was just my grandfather dropped out of school and just went to work. So his mentality was, you're going to work. You're going to work. You're going to be good at work, right? And you're going to have a good work ethic. Yeah, right? And not that wasn't the case on my mom's side. And what happens when you're a kid, right? And you got the other set of grandparents that are like, hey, I'm not so much focused on school. You need to do well in school, but I'm not to focus on it. I like you. I like you because you're not going to make me push hard to want to do that, right? I mean, you traditionally do that. So, I mean, I had loving grandparents on both sides. I ended up living with my dad's parents for 5 years. And then my dad was able to move back to our hometown, which is 10 minutes down the road. But they were always a big part of my life. And I always gravitated from my grandfather because he was always somebody that I could talk to. You know, my grandmother was... I just spent a majority of my time with them, right? So I became very attached to them. And he was always working. He was always working. And he would get mad. He would get upset at people that didn't have a good work ethic. And that was his upbringing, right? Like, you went to work. And I think I really gravitated towards that. But I think part of that is I saw that, and there's a lot of things he didn't like. So I was like, well, I'm going to do what he wants me to do. So if I can work really hard, I can avoid the things that people don't like, right? Maybe people like it, right? You're feeling for a sense of just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is carried, and it's, to be honest with people, right, that is still something I'm working on today, because you guys tell me all the time that, I mean, it's so important to be around people that hold you accountable. It's like, you guys tell me all the time, dude, you gotta slow down, because I'll work all day at work. I'll get up in the morning, I do PT. You guys know, I send you guys stupid messages at 4:30 in the morning.
He does.
What are you guys doing?
True.
You guys up? You guys working out yet? Yeah. And you guys are like, yeah, you're dumb. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're still sleeping, so I'm better than you. And then
That's so true.
I'll
Instant
go-
gratification.
yeah, there we go. Right?
That's it.
And then I go to work all day, right? And then for at least half the year, I've been coaching my kids' sports teams. And then I get off of that, and by the time we get home, it's 8 o'clock at night. I shower, and I'll help my wife try to put them down, right? My wife carries this family, and that's a whole nother discussion. And then, what do? I go to work for Beyond the Trek. And I just do that consistently. And I understand it's not healthy. And I understand, and I don't know, maybe I'm just still searching for that thing. And I think I have partly found that doing this. And to fast forward through, part of my career and stuff, there was always a part of time in the Army where I always wanted to give back to people, right? But I was always, in some parts of that year, people are always ahead of you.
Yeah.
People that are always above you, and I'm trying to break this down for people that may not understand it, but the people that are above you, right, they don't always give you that latitude, right? And especially for some people, as an enlisted guy, right, well, I got to check with this guy, I got to check with this guy, and you never can really get that full sense of, like, I want to be able to give back. So, luckily, later on in my career, one of our teammates that isn't here right now was like, hey, man, you should try to go be green to gold. And you remember, right?
Yeah.
What do these people even do, man? They're like summer help. They come to the side. I don't know. I don't even be an officer. I went and did that, and I was so fortunate to go to an organization that saw my value. And I don't want to name these individuals because they're still serving right now, but they saw something in me, and they were like, run and do what you need to do, and we'll do it, right? And I was like, okay, And I was like, well, how far do I push this envelope? I'm still seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so fortunate that these people just let me do what I wanted to do. And that's where I really started to develop the mindset and the idea of Beyond the Trek when I didn't even know what it was yet, because these people let me basically coach, teach, mentor. They let me do physical events that I thought were going to help save people's lives if or when they deploy. I was able to push these guys beyond their limits without anybody telling me what to do. I had no red tape to do paperwork, because I did the basics. I did the basics that were right, so everybody looked at that and they were like, oh, well, you're doing the basics of paperwork and stuff, so everything else you must be doing is right. And, I served in one organization for 6 months or so, did a deployment, put those guys through what was the founding stages of Beyond the Trek, the event-based leader thing where we talked a lot, did workshops, and then we did selection-based stuff. And then I got fortunate enough to move to a headquarters where I got to be like an executive officer, and I had a phenomenal boss there that, again, let me run with it. for the first time in my life, I was able to say, hey, I want to develop something where everybody can come. I want to do what I call XO. And he was like, okay, man, I trust you. Again, no red tape. And I was able to do the things that I wanted to do. And it started out with, I made it mandatory. I made one person from every shop show. And my whole purpose of that was because of the job that we do. I was like, I'm tired of you guys coming to me to say, I need to know who does the paperwork stuff. Instead of me telling you that, I'm gonna invite one person from every shop, and I'm gonna say, "Hey, you need paperwork done, right? That's Matt. That's the guy that does paperwork. You're the guy. Hey, guess what? You just developed a network. Go fix your own problems, so you stop bothering me." And people reluctantly are like, "Oh God, why am I doing this?" And at the end of it, they're like, "Man, this is pretty cool." And I was like, "Man, maybe I'm onto something here."
Do you think you did a fast forward to some of your childhood, some of that forming, your grandfather working as hard, and I know a lot of us can relate to that. We had parents who knew how to work, and that's probably predicated on coming out of the Great Depression, having those parents out of that who didn't have kids, and it just worked, and then getting into the military, working and performing, because it is a meritocracy
100%.
within the military, and you're getting rewarded on the merit of your work, which is okay, because that's just saying that, hey, you can be a private and you can end up a sergeant major, or you can be a private and end up a 4-star general, because you've had those those leaders. And seeing that transition for yourself, what do you think was some of your biggest challenges as an adolescent just before you made that transition into the military?
I think when I look back at it, I was a very lost kid. I was a lost kid, and it was crazy because I didn't have any restrictions as a kid. My wife says it now. She's like, "You could just kind of roam." She's like, "Sometimes I think it's wild that you ended up the way you did." Like, halfway sane, I guess, because I just had no restrictions. My dad worked. When he wasn't working, it was always this feeling when I got picked up from school, or when I got my license, I drove home. Is today the day, right? God, this is so weird to think about this now. Is I would get these like nervous feelings, before I left school. And if I got that feeling, I was 99% of the time I knew when I got home I was gonna be drunk. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. And the only other time I have felt like that, where it was like I knew something, was it was Christmas Eve. This was Christmas Eve a handful of years ago. My grandmother on my dad's side was in the hospital with lung cancer. She was passing out. She was going to pass away. And so we left that night on Christmas Eve, and I hadn't done any Christmas shopping yet, because I was going to school at the time in Hawaii, and I flew home, and we were staying with my in-laws. And God, it had to be like 7:30 or something. I got back to the house, and my wife was like, "You haven't done any Christmas shopping." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, right?" And we understood the circumstances, right? I came home to do upstairs. I had to be right around 8 o'clock, maybe, or 8:30 or something. And I'm leaving the driveway at my in-laws' house, and I got that nervous feeling. And I was like, this is weird. Like, I know this feeling, right? Like, and all of a sudden, God is my witness, right? I felt this rush, like this just rush of that feeling. I can like feel it now. I'm like getting goosebumps thinking about it. And it was like I knew that my grandmother had passed away. Like, knew it. And I was like, it's like I know right now, like something. And I started getting like emotional. I'm like, right? And during this time, right, even my dad ended up passing away a couple years after this. And he had called earlier that night, and I had that same feeling, right, before this. And he had drinking, right? So I was in the hospital. But anyway, I'm driving to Target, and I'm sitting at this red light. I vividly remember, boom, I feel this feeling. And I was like, she just passed away. She passed away. Yeah. And I had this void. And go to Target, come back. I don't remember what I bought. I was walking down the aisle. The typical dad thing. So I get back to the house, a shower, I get into bed, and you're like, because right?
Yeah.
And at 10 o'clock, I get a phone call. It's my grandfather. And he goes, "Hey, Chad, she passed." He's like, "So I need to go to the hospital." I'm like, "All right, well, I'll drive to the hospital, right?" It's 45 minutes away. And that's the last time I have felt a feeling like that nervous feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a few years from now, I think it was
2020.
Was it 2020?
2020.
Yeah.
No, 2019.
2019.
It had to be 2019.
2019.
I was in the field and I came back, and Gavin and I were cleaning weapons, and my phone rang. And I typically don't answer the phone, right? Like most people, you look at a number and you're like, nah. My phone's ringing, and I looked at it. You know, if you see a number from back home or an area you're from, you know if it's a cell phone.
Yeah.
Just the way the numbers are. And I remember looking at Gavin, and I was like, I got to take this call, man. But I didn't have that nervous feeling. It was like I had this like sense of like emptiness almost, right? And like I answered it, and this guy that knew my dad was like, "Hey, I got bad news." Like that's how he broke it to me. Hey man, how's it going? You know, I'm not gonna say the guy's name, but hey man, how's it going? Yeah, I just want to let you know I got some bad news. Oh, your dad's passed. I was kind of like, oh, okay. Anyway, we started going down this rabbit hole. But so going back to like childhood, I think I was always just seeking validation. I was seeking something, and I felt like I couldn't. I feel like I didn't have control. I feel like I just didn't have it. So anyway, being able to be at JBLM and feeling that feeling of like I'm not nervous, and being able to talk to people, and that's where I came up with the values or the phrases of the organization of right. Be the leader you have a positive attitude. Be the leader you follow. Be the change you wish you see. Do something hard every day and have fun. And I remember telling that to a formation. I remember looking across and seeing a couple people, their eyes light up and be like, man, God, I resonated with that. And I was like, holy crap, man, it works, I feel like for the first time since I was a kid, I was like, I'm favored. Like somebody accepts this, right? Somebody accepts this, and you're like, holy smokes, right? And I think, what, to go back to your point, I just thought about this right now, is maybe that's the addictive part of this, is that we've gone out, we've had some awesome opportunities to go talk to people, right? And that first episode, you hear Ken talk about at the end of it, I think somebody came up to him and was like, I resonated with that. That feeling of what you've said, I've accepted it with, you're chasing that. Unbeknownst to myself, I want to work hard to give somebody that because I'm also selfishly gaining satisfaction from the fact that I or we were able to help you. I just came up with that.
Yeah. But I don't think that's a bad thing because we all are giving and receiving. I don't think giving and taking, but giving and receiving. And part of that is, the challenges you experience, childhood, and then joining the military. Because one of the questions I had was, at what point, and I think you probably covered this, but at what point did you shift to where you were able to not hide behind the lack of confidence?
Oh no, there's a point there. There's
you know what I'm saying? I'm saying at what point? You know what I'm saying? And I didn't. So explain that. At what point did you have that transition?
Ken, you probably don't know. Well, I mean, I know you know now, but I would say we were go for so many years, right? That when I went to Green to Gold, it all just stopped. Right? I mean, you're going to school, right? Rightfully so. The op tempo had just shut down.
Cease.
It stops. You're not in the text chain anymore. You're not in the emails. You don't have a kit to wear. I have no purpose but to go to school. And at first you're like, this is nice. Mm-hmm. Until all that free time starts getting filled with drinking and maybe not so much coming complacent, loss of sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So fast forward, no op tempo, going to school. They came out and they said, hey, we got this opportunity. You can go away for the summer. Right? And I jumped all over that. I'm like, I gotta go. My wife's like, why are you I won't get picked up for these things. Why are you gonna leave right now, right? You just came off doing all these things, like you're home doing school, like spend time with us. No, I'm gonna do this. Right? Chasing something, right? Yeah, I think it just goes back to we are chasing to because we feel like we're out of the fight, right? I feel like I'm out of the fight, like I gotta get in the fight.
It's ingrained in you at that point.
Yeah. And long story short, they go off to Europe for 3 months to go work with some people that we actually knew. And I'm there, and my wife, Was that? Yeah. Was like
correct that. He's only had one.
I've only ever had one.
There's some of us who had multiple because failures, but
He's the only one that's had one here.
He only has one, and his wife is his wife. We're not gonna say her name. It's only one.
Yeah, and anyway,
We can't.
she had tried to she was introducing me to like Dave Ramsey and stuff. She's like, we got to get our finances straight. And as the typical enlisted mindset, when I get promoted, don't worry, our lives will be fixed because I'm going to get
So
this
that
raise.
was the wife. Dave Ramsey was her idea.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
So
Yeah,
shout out,
he presented that to me. I was like, oh.
so shout out to old Dave Ramsey.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Big deal.
So I'm in Europe and I'm around some individuals that we had served with, and they're all still serving. So that's it. But they had the USA Career Star Goal, right? And these guys were like, "Oh yeah, man, you can get it." And I'm all, "Well, I don't get those, right?" But my daughter was in school at the time. Right? My daughter's in school at the time, and I had a motorcycle. I had all the things that people thought that were like cool. So I was like, I sent a couple emails back. Nobody got back to me, which I understand, right? They were changing out leadership, and you're a cadet, right? Nobody got back to me. And I'm like, well, nobody cares about me. I'm gonna sign this paperwork myself, right? At least that's what I thought. So anyway, some things had transpired while I was in Europe. A buddy of mine that was there tried to commit suicide. He was drinking a lot. Right after that, I had a team leader, a guy that was one of my team leaders when I was a squad leader back in the Convention Army that murdered his wife. And not that I knew that was my fault, right? But you take that burden on yourself and you're like, why didn't he reach out? Then you start thinking like, well, I wasn't really reaching out to him. Was I not good enough for that, right? Was I not placing myself in a position where, so anyway, some things had transpired, and the program got a hold of me and said, hey, we got wind that, this incident happened. Did it happen? And I owned up to it. Yeah, absolutely it did. And that's the first time in my career that my talent, right, was built on arrogance because I was doing everything that everybody else thought that was like really good, in everybody's eyes. It was a time that I could not hide behind anything. So I fly back from Europe, and they were straightforward about it, right? They said, hey, this is the incident that happened. It's black and white, man. I gotta look at maybe separating them. And I was like, man, okay. And I started blaming everybody else except myself. When nobody else had a hand in this. And this isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's just, it was put on display, right? And no fault to them, right? And then, in some organizations you wear unit shirts and things. I wasn't allowed to wear a unit shirt. So I stood out like a sore thumb. I had to tell the story of what happened. And, I tried to do, it wasn't tried, but it was just, I didn't take a good inner look at myself. And it's because all the great things I had succeeded were because I skated around the things I wasn't good at. And that knocked me off my pedestal, man. And the thing that hurt the most was I didn't even tell Tani what I thought about, doing what I did, right? And there wasn't anything nefarious or anything when I married or anything that happened like that, right? And she was just like, why didn't you call and tell me? Why did you decide to make this decision on your own? And what really hurt me was telling the story over and over and over and over. And you always hear, right, at least in the military sense, people always come to bat for you one time. Okay? And having to call people that I actually cared for and say, hey, I messed up. And this is what happened. And to my surprise, every single person I called stood up on my behalf. Now, I'm not going to name them, right? But every single one of them. And they were like, I'm going to come to bat for you. And shout out to the professor of military science at the time. Because he was like, this is what I have to do. This is what it says. And I was so mad, man. I remember sitting there, and I'll be honest with you, man. I was crying in there and everything. He knows that. Because I was just like, man, I feel like nobody cared about me. I was trying to get a hold of people. All these external things were happening. I was disciplined in fitness because I thought that's what everybody wanted, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't being the awesome husband or dad that I thought I was that we talked about in the first episode. Because when I was gone, and when I was home, I thought I was great, but my wife's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Not always. It was work. right? It was work. So anyway, but he closes the door and he's like, "You keep your head down, you keep rowing." Right? And that's what I did, man. I rowed and I rowed and I rowed my boat, and I was like, "Hey, I want to talk to everybody I can, and I'm going to tell my story. And if this is what separates me out of this program and changes my career, like, hey, man, so be it." And I had to come to terms with that. And I walked in one day to have a FaceTime conversation with the overall commander. And I walk into this professor of military sciences office, who I am forever grateful for, and I've told him this multiple times. He goes, "Hey, you're not going to talk to that person today." And my heart just sank. And I'm like, right? And then I started, in my mind, I didn't say anything, started like, just like mad. I'm like, why?
It's called catastrophizing.
Yeah.
I learned that.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
And he said, "Because I told you to row your boat, and you've been rowing your boat. And everybody you asked to stand up for you has stood up for you." He's like, "And I see something." It goes back to that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You see something in me? Like me? For once. Or you see something in me? And I was never that guy that always wanted to bury people when they got in trouble. But I was like, "Hey, man, it's black and white." And I was finally the guy in the seat that where it was like, it's not always black and white, man. Like those things that my grandfather was saying about, like, gotta work because it's like this. It was always black and white. For once, somebody was telling me something. I was like, "Man, it isn't black and white." And he grabbed that packet and he looked at me. He's like, "You ain't got much longer here." Threw it in his file drawer. He's all, "You mess up one more time, you're gone." And I was just like, wow. Like, dude, you don't even know what to say in that instance. But it just showed me, like, dude.
That's it, baby.
So, I mean,
And there's worse things that had happened, right? But because I got knocked off the horse completely, and people, when you go to a program, and you know this, prior service guy, you've been in special ops guys, they put you on a pedestal. And you're like, well, I'm not that great, but now instead of being a big fish in a big pond with all these other people, now I'm just a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah.
And now you're knocked off the stoop, and people are looking at you. You're like, oh.
So, yeah, I think not that it's great to see that kind of evolution, the challenges of childhood, the work hard, because what hit me, right, the work hard mentality, and there's some things that we learned through that process. You worked hard to go through special operations, and you got to that point, and you work hard to get to green to go, and then like, I'm going to work hard, but part of me, I need to take care of myself. That work hard is you taking care of yourself, not taking care of the team, right? At that time, Tani was a part of the team because you're going through ROTC. ROTC is part of that team, but then you make a decision that's actually against not only yourself, but the entire team. But then the humanity of it is that professor of military science, which is a lieutenant colonel that is active duty out at colleges, helping train future officers, saw something in you. And I remember having a conversation with you when I was going through another program through the Army, when you said, "Hey, what should I say to other people?" And I was like, "Brother, talk to the people you need to talk to. Don't talk to anybody else, because some people don't know how to show you grace. They just don't understand that, because they will nail you to the wall. All your successes mean nothing. But to see you come back from that, to kind of arise out of that, to say, you know what, that person has value. That person has value. I have value to give to these individuals, not that I'm around, but to a greater whole." And it's amazing to see where you have come from childhood through the military to where you are like today. And we know you're still active duty and you're still rowing hard, right? You still got your head down, rowing hard. Maybe not probably have his head down, rowing hard, because other people probably say, "That dude's, he's just doing too much." Is meaning that you care enough to continue to invest in not only yourself, but those around you within your circle. And we've been able to see that you're staying true to the very things that you're saying. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is it because you got knocked off your horse and somebody else said, "It's okay, I'm gonna dust you off as long as you're willing to share the things that you learned"?
Yeah, I would say 100%. I would say that not only was the hardest part, the second hardest part of that whole journey was, how am I going to support my family? Because we all know right? If you get separated from the program, you get, hey, you get a did not meet standards. That doesn't seem like a big deal until you start looking at QMP and, you know, other things that go on. The hardest part of this was going home every day to my team and knowing that I let the head coach down. And when you go home and you're having a pity party for yourself and you're complaining about, man, nobody's got the paperwork yet. Do you think the head coach has any sympathy for you? None. Because you lost trust. And that was like, right? Which again took me a long time to go through, and I feel like there was a purpose on why it took so long, because then I would go into school, or if you're not, or whatever you will, right? And I'd be mad at people. Why are you guys mad at me? You know, I get mad at home, now I'm mad here. And it took me time to work through that and have grace for people and realize that, like, okay, man. And it changed me, and I think that is what propelled me when I got lucky enough to go to, you know, a unit back in the conventional army. It was like I had grace for people. Hey, man, it's okay. I'm going to expect a lot from you because I have high standards, and I refuse to have higher standards for other people than I do myself. But if you fall off your horse, man, I'm going to be here to help you. And it's because somebody else dusted me off. You know, it's okay.
And that's one of the biggest things, man, that I've noticed is, you know, as a senior non-commissioned officer, you cannot allow other people. Well, you have to give the guys a little bit of leeway.
That comes with experience.
You cannot hold that. You cannot be like, no, you are not allowed to make mistakes. Especially being someone who makes mistakes, right? I'm human, just like everybody else, man. The same thing as you, right? Like, we're all human. We make mistakes. It's one of the things that I always hated, you know, to have senior non-commissioned officers or, you know, whatever. They're like, oh, you know, they get on me about something, and I know in my heart, like, no, I know what you did when you were younger. I know that you made mistakes, but you're coming down hard on me and these boys. And we know what you did. So that's the thing, is like you have to have that. You have to be able to give that, like, you know, a little bit of leeway and be like, all right, listen, you know what you did. Just what are you going to do after this? How are you going to make this better?
So I'm gonna steal that question. So now, what do you do after today? How are you gonna make yourself better?
I'm gonna go to work right after this. No, I'm just kidding.
He's not kidding.
Lying.
36 hours straight.
Yeah, 36 hours straight. What am I gonna do? I don't know. I say I don't know because I want to give back, right? I want to give back so much because it's such a it's a selfish feeling for that. I want those people to know, like, hey man, just because you grew up, maybe you grew up in the same situation, I admit I grew up in the situation you did, like, we can relate. And not only are we here to come into an organization and just tell you a story, help you work through it, and leave, right? I want to be a connection for you. I want to be a resource for you. I want to be somebody you can reach out to or help you get there.
Yeah.
So, and I know we did it in episode 1, right? But kind of, can you share with those in the audience that are listening, like, what is that Beyond the Trek? What do they do?
Oh, yeah. So actually, well, because it just came to me. Sometimes I'm like 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
What am I gonna continue to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to live the phrases and values that we have. I'm going to continue to focus on self-care. I'm going to continue to take care of myself so I can take care of my family. And then I'll take care of the mission, right? That includes this organization. I'm going to continue to wake up every day with a positive attitude and hold myself accountable. I'm going to continue to be the change I wish I saw, right? I'm not going to be the things that I didn't like seeing growing up. I'm going to be that change. I'm going to be the leader I would follow. And I tell you guys that all the time. And a lot of people are like, man, that's kind of cliche. It is, but I have to ask myself this. It's like a lot of people say, would I do this if my wife was in the room? Okay, well, that's one question to ask.
100%.
Or yeah.
Good point.
Okay. Or the other thing is, would I want this done to me if somebody else is above me?
Yeah.
Would I be the leader I would follow? So those days, right, we talked about it. Man, I don't want to run 40 miles today. Well, if you were a guy that says you didn't want to run 40 miles, or says you did want to run 40 miles, but you didn't do it, would I want to work for that dude? Nope. I'm going to work on doing something hard every day and having fun. So I tie all that into I do those things every day, and I surround myself with people that have higher standards for themselves than they do other people. And I try to meet the mark of those people. So what does Beyond the Trek do? We take our lessons learned. We teach them to people through 3 different services or lines of effort. The first one being interactive speaking engagements, where we talk with people, we walk with them through our journey, and we try to connect to them. The second service we offer is workshops. Get you to dive into your personal life and give you time to go through your workbook that we have created and get you to do a deep dive on yourself and figure out where you are falling short. And you don't have to share that with people, right? That is your time when we're going through it to be able to figure out and be like, man, these are the things I want to do. These are things I'm telling myself. Because it's like when you write a paper and people tell you to read it out loud.
Yeah.
And you're like, that sounds dumb. And then you read it out loud and you're like, wow, I sound really weird right now. Right?
Yeah.
So when people are always pointing fingers at individuals saying, we should do things this way. We should, that guy should be fitter. That guy, that gal, that whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
Okay, well tell it to you, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And I guarantee if some people said, it's because I'm lazy, they'd be like, I can't believe I said that to myself. So that workshop is designed to bring that to you. Or the third one, which I think is my favorite because I'm always working and I'm 100 miles an hour on everything, is the event-based leader development program. And it's a workshop, the workshop that we created in conjunction with physical fitness, right? A lot of people will think, why physical fitness?
That's your win.
Because-
Sign up.
Yep, because you can't discount doing hard things with people. But here's the glory of it. We are an organization that everything we plan for you to do in a physical fitness aspect, we are going to do it with you. We are going to lead from the front. We are going to put leaders at the point of friction and show you that that is where you need to be, right? We want to show you that you have to lead your people. You have to do the things that you're going to tell them to do. When you think about, in a military term, a breach point, that is the only point that you're able to go through because everywhere else is blocked off. So you may be a manager, you might be somebody leading in your life, okay, in your family, and you're looking for other avenues of things you can do, and really there's only one way to go. And that one way is already fixated by whatever enemy that's looking at you. Let's say you're a manager, right, and you're trying to grow your organization at a grocery store, and you want to advertise, and you need to get through the breach point. And you're like, I need to move myself to this point of friction, and I've got to move my team across this. But I know once I breach this thing, the other team, the other store already has the information campaign ready, right? They're already going to do counter advertisements. How do you avoid that? You avoid that by building the team, setting the team, believing in them, build resiliency, build discipline in your team so they can exercise initiative when you get through that breach point, because you can't be everywhere. So you're going to work through that workshop and you're going to identify things to yourself, and then you're going to break down into a small team and you're going to go out and do some really difficult things. But these gentlemen are going to lead you through it. And when you say, man, I can't do this, I'm going to look back at your workbook and be like, all right, little Johnny, and I'm going to pull you aside and I'm going to say, you said you wanted to achieve this. What is causing you to not do it? Is it just because it's hard? Because hard times don't last. Okay? We're here to coach, teach, mentor, and develop. And motivation, right, to a lot of people out there, I will give my own definition, right, is providing purpose, direction, and inspiration. Because if you can inspire people to do something, the guy or gal that's always doing something that they tell you to do, right? You're like, oh, I hate that guy, but he's doing it. Okay? You got to inspire them to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to take all this and all our failures that we've learned and bring them to your organization or you as an individual and hopefully give you that book like a parent would. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. We don't want you to make the same mistakes we did. And we want to teach you that so you can become a more disciplined, resilient leader who's accountable to yourself and the people that depend on you. And the most important thing is we want this to become a train the trainer. I want to be able to infect you and give you the tools and the confidence. I can't teach you to be courageous, but I can teach you the tools to be confident in your ability, right? In our world, to move under fire because you're confident in your ability. Mm-hmm. And I want you to take that out and go take it to your community when you're a coach, you're a leader, you're a cashier, you're a whatever, and you can teach that to your team. 100% to build the country that we all want to see. right? Or build whatever country you're in, whatever town, whatever city. Don't complain about the problem. Don't be a problem identifier. I tell this to my kids all the time. Hey, you're gonna clean up your mess, but my brother didn't clean it. You're a problem identifier. Don't be a problem identifier, right? Be somebody who identifies the problem, evaluates the situation, comes up with a solution, and implements a solution so all parties there understand why it has to be accomplished. That's when you win.
Yeah.
I just came up with that. I'm not like the smartest guy I know.
Off top.
So goofy.
It's off top.
But so those who are listening, we really thank you for tuning in. You heard it from our CEO. You got a glimpse into where he came from, with some of the challenges that he dealt with, how he came back from a challenge, and his desire to give back. That's what Beyond the Trek is about. Stay tuned. What we're going to do is, if you look below, there will be a questionnaire right below for you to respond to, and we'll look at those comments. That question is actually for you to do a self-assessment. If you're an individual out there who is looking for some individuals to hold them accountable, reach out to us. If you're a company or organization that needs an organization, an outside look to come in and to provide you a workshop, a leader talk, or a event-based workshop, hey, reach out to us, because we're taking our experiences through the military, not just the military, our life prior, before we get to the military, and beyond, for those of us who have transitioned or transitioning from the military, to show you how do you get back on the horse, get past failure, and still seek towards success. It is our desire at Beyond the Trek to continue to provide something for you, your friends, your family, your organization, your city, your country, our country, so you can be better, so you can do the things that you need to do for you and for those who depend on you. Thank you. Like, subscribe, please share, because we got to mess with that algorithm, and we need your help to mess with the algorithm to get our message out to everybody. We love you. Take it out. Take it easy. We see you in episode 3.
Yeah, that was pretty solid.
Let's just hope it